the unheard, the unspoken marvels of Yggdrasildia, ever striding towards their goals. Touched by the hands of eldritch wizards, they bestow powers to mold their destinies, to shift the powers of realms, minds, and vigor. Before we get to the retelling of this story, I leave you with this. Fear not the abyss, for as the fear is inside you, the abyss is as well.
As the veil of Session 45 lifts, a barren wasteland lay sprawled beneath the cruel gaze of the Riders of Aprose, a harbinger of extinction from the desolate west. Westfair, once a bastion of hope, now stood choked by corruption, its future as bleak as a dying ember. Yet, amidst the city's crumbling heart, the Nameless, fueled by Velikor's grief for his lost home, remained an unwavering ember of defiance. Drawn by an unseen hand, they found themselves at the foot of the ascending hills, gateway to Westfair. Their path, a harrowing labyrinth, culminated in the shadow of a gargantuan worm, its proportions defying comprehension. Like a malefic sun casting its baleful influence, Nalzix, the cursed overlord, descended upon the Nameless, a harbinger of their demise. Atop a swirling vortex of undead bones perched his mischievous consort, Nefari, a creature of beguiling beauty and venomous malice. Together, they formed a chilling effigy of doom, poised to extinguish the flickering light of Westfair and the Nameless. As the pendulum of fate swung precariously, a desperate plea for reason echoed in the air. But these valiant pleas fell upon deaf ears. The behemoth overlord met their pleas with nothing but threats and demands for submission. Unswayed by his tyranny, the Nameless stood resolute, and a battle of epic proportions commenced. Amidst skies crackling with celestial fury, the Nameless fought a desperate ballet for their own survival and the fate of West Yggdrasildia. Both the defenders of Westfair and the warriors of Torgo were helpless before the encroaching darkness, a guillotine of annihilation that choked the life from the land. Mordrum and Smore, perched precariously atop the writhing worm, soon grasped the gravity of the situation when their valiant attempts yielded no response from the colossal beast. Smore, his blade lost in the ensuing chaos, plunged from the worm's back towards the smoke-choked shores of Westfair in a desperate bid to retrieve it. Recognizing the need for a different strategy, he opted to lend aid to the ground forces. Mordrum, witnessing the epicenter of the battle erupt into a maelstrom of darkness, spurred his mount towards his comrades. Nefari, a twisted jester, toyed with Tepin, Jafar, Lunaria, and Velikor, her scarred visage a chilling tableau of beauty and corruption. With a sadistic grin, she unleashed her malevolent power upon the Nameless. Lunaria, overwhelmed by the onslaught of the green tiefling's blade, fell. With her teary eyes, she uttered her final words.
Tell Umbraflux I love him.
A whisper lost in the cacophony of battle. Witnessing this, a primal surge of grief and vengeance coursed through the Nameless, fueling their retaliation. Jafar, unseen by the enemy, plunged his blades of the mind deeper, a hidden force on the chessboard of war. Tepin, casting aside his veil of shadows, plumbed the depths of his necromantic mastery, unleashing a dreadful word of power. Like a storm unleashed by sheer will, the verdant blight was banished to oblivion. Nalzix, clad in armor forged from cursed metal, bore the brunt of the attack aimed at his beloved, but even his dark defenses were no match for such grief-fueled power. A roar, echoing the fury of a blizzard-stricken mountaintop, erupted from the Overlord as he grappled with his anguish. Yet, the Nameless remained resolute, their resolve as unshakable as the earth itself. The battle escalated to a crescendo of unimaginable violence. Velikor, in a desperate attempt to escape the clutches of the skeletal monstrosity and the grief-stricken Overlord, met his demise. Though death was no stranger to him, it nonetheless marked a turning point. Seemingly alone and outnumbered, Tepin stood his ground, unflinching in the face of potential annihilation. But just as fate seemed poised to deliver its cruelest blow, Mordrum arrived, his arrival a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. Arcane energies crackled through the heavens, while blades and ballistas clashed on the ground below. How could the Nameless, weary and depleted, possibly vanquish this seemingly invincible force of darkness? A desperate plea for a miracle echoed through the battlefield. Then, a sudden burst of light, rivaling the sun itself, pierced the veil of night. Through the smoke and fire, Smore, transformed into a living torpedo, plunged into the fray. Like embers rekindled by the desperate breath of a dying fire, the power of Westfair's steam and steel reignited. The fallen members of the Nameless rose, a chilling harbinger of doom, poised to deliver the final death blow. The Overlord and his twisted companion fell, their reign of terror extinguished. Swiftly securing their hard-won victory, they claimed their spoils, a treasure trove of precious metal and an ornately crafted compass with an eye of white. But the battle was far from over. The air of Westfair hung heavy with the stench of death spewing from the malevolent portal. In a final act of defiance, Jafar trained the portal upon the nape of the worm, the very vessel carrying this harbinger of destruction. Tepin, however, driven by an insatiable curiosity, ventured beyond the veil, his gaze settling upon a world of unimaginable dread. Beyond the portal, countless soldiers stood amidst a desolate landscape, their devotion to a dark, spiky manor as unwavering and chilling as a forest clinging to a withered tree. These soldiers stood ready to unleash their malice at a moment's notice. There was no other option. The bridge between light and darkness, steel and destruction, needed to be severed. With a collective act of will, the Nameless channeled their power, directing the baleful ray towards the floating warship's nape. The onlookers on the ground watched in awe as the dark sky screamed in agony, a purple scar carved into the very heart of the Dulukian Mountains and the Westfair countryside. The Nameless, one by one, plummeted into a free-fall, their descent a grim symphony of exhaustion. Yet, through Jafar's quick thinking and a desperate realignment of their positions, they managed to break their fall, prevailing once more against seemingly insurmountable odds. The aftermath painted a desolate picture. Scorched and scarred lands stretched before them, haunted by the lingering shadows of the recent conflict. Exhausted and teetering on the brink of complete collapse, the Nameless yearned for a respite. However, the ever-present threat of corruption in Westfair demanded swift action. With time a dwindling resource, they decided to seek refuge in the time-dilated realm of Kor, a haven where they could recuperate before facing the inevitable fall of the city. Even within the serene confines of Kor, thoughts of their missing comrade Berry gnawed at their minds. Time flowed differently here, and surely he would have aged considerably in their absence. As they approached the grand chamber of Nodin, the eldritch wizard, a scene of unexpected transformation unfolded before them. Gone, were the austere stone walls, replaced by a vibrant streetscape bustling with life. A long-haired woman, regal and strangely familiar, walked towards them, a faint giggle escaping her lips. The Nameless recognized her instantly, Nodens, but in a different form, seemingly mimicking a forgotten past. They approached her with hesitant greetings as the melody of a flute filled the air. Emerging from a nearby structure, an older yet undeniably berry serenaded them with a practiced indifference. Despite the awkwardness, they saw a reflection of their former friend in this aged version. Conversations flowed, recounting the harrowing events they had endured. Nodens offered solace to those who had brushed against the abyss, telling them not to fear the abyss because the abyss lay inside us all, and one must not wince at its gaze. Farewells were exchanged, though Lunaria yearned for the newly unified society of Kor, where she reigned as queen. Here, she found Ombraflux, surrounded by walls plastered with cycles of days, a concept she had introduced to him about the fleeting nature of time on the material plane. Overcome with joy at her return, Ombraflux renewed his proposal, seeking to solidify their eternal bond. Renewed and their spirits somewhat mended, the Nameless prepared to return to the horrors they had left behind. Back in the twilight of a ravaged Westfair, they embarked on a mission of damage control, navigating the city's deformed streets. Drawn to the West Watcher's barracks, they stumbled upon the name Felric Kindmantle inscribed in a prison log. Hope flickered within Velikor. Perhaps his father was closer than they thought. Their journey led them through a labyrinth of despair, past hollowed souls confined within the prison walls. Finally reaching cell 3B7, they found it eerily empty, the trail growing cold once more. Shifting their focus to the Sovereign family, they encountered a prison guard who remarked on Velikor's fur, a detail that fueled their determination. Weaving through the moored city, they reached the Sovereign family cemetery. Its gates, hanging open like a decaying moor, stood as a grim metaphor, a glimpse into Westfair's own chilling future, perhaps. Has the boundary of this graveyard stretched beyond the walls of Westfair? The Nameless, weary but resolute, holds the answer in their hands.
And so, the story goes on. The abyss is as well.